All right, welcome back to another episode of This Week in FredNats as we creep closer and closer to opening day 2025. Spring training has begun in full force, and you can just feel baseball in the air. Eric Bach, Robbie Perry, GM of the FredNats, so glad you've joined us. As we've got Eddie Longosz, the Director of Player Development for the Washington Nationals, coming up in a little bit. But first, Rob, some business to take care of. This Saturday, the season will be mapped out for us here in Fredericksburg. The promotional schedule released, and man, in my 4 years here, this is the most comprehensive, more giveaways than ever, more fireworks than ever. 2025 is going to be a huge year here.
Oh, it's going to be an awesome year. It's going to be I'm more excited about our theme nights this year, our giveaways, the fireworks. Yeah, and it all comes out this Saturday, 9 a.m., where single game tickets will also be available all at 9 a.m., both at the box office and online. But, yeah, I mean, I'm so excited. We're adding more fireworks. For the first time ever, we're adding fireworks on Saturdays. Not every Saturday, but we're adding fireworks on select Saturdays.
In addition to every Friday, as per usual.
Of course. And, actually talking with the firework company, they're doing some different things with the fireworks to bring in new products. So the fireworks shows are going to even be more unique this year. We're doing more giveaways than we've ever given. So we're giving more giveaways on, obviously every single Sunday we're giving away giveaways. But on Saturdays, we're also giving a select more, especially like tied to certain theme nights. That you all find out this Saturday. But we got some really exciting giveaways that we got lined up. A lot of championship-themed giveaways as well. So we're also doing more bobbleheads. We're doing more bobblehead giveaways than we've ever given. And we all know how people love their bobbleheads.
They love them.
Oh, my goodness, do they love them. Yeah, I'm so excited.
I count 5 bobbleheads this year on the promotional schedule, and we've already talked about the Travis Sikora bobblehead. We gave that one away on this podcast already. That's May 11th, the Travis Sikora bobblehead. But there's 4 other ones, and I think everyone who has been around the FredNats these last few years knows all 4 of the rest of the names that will be given away on the bobblehead. But we're not going to spoil that now. That's Saturday, 9 a.m. That gets released, and as Robbie said, the same time as single game tickets going on sale. Saturday, February 22nd, both in the box office here at the ballpark and online at FredNats.com. And so we're less than 50 days away from FredNat baseball here at the stadium, but we're even closer. We're less than 3 weeks away from big-time college baseball being played here, Maryland and Virginia. Tickets still available for that. We've sold a good amount, but there's still plenty of room to get in on that action.
Yeah. March 11th, do not miss out. It's our first big collegiate game here at the ballpark. It's going to be full-blown production. We're going to treat it as our own game, so you're going to get the whole show. Don't miss out, March 11th. We're making Fredericksburg history, so do not miss out.
And those 2 teams obviously used to be ACC rivals. There's so many people in this area that are connected to either one of those schools, and I think we're hopefully going to turn this into an annual thing here with
That's the plan.
UVA and Maryland.
That's why you guys got to show up, show out. The plans to make this annual tradition.
And like Robbie said, that we'll be handling the production of that game, so it'll be our show on ACC Network Plus, which will be aired with the Virginia games. And, I mean, I couldn't be more excited to see the number 2 team in the country and a Maryland team that last year was in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it should be a really good baseball game.
And Maryland has a Fredericksburg native who actually played the first, competitive baseball for Fredericksburg Christian Academy, Fredericksburg Christian School, here back in February 2021. So he's part of FredNat history, believe it or not. And so Elijah Lambros is his name. He's a Fredericksburg native, and he plays for Maryland. So really, really cool, kind of coming full circle.
Yeah, we're excited we'll have some content put out with him even before this game gets here. But just super exciting times. Hopefully the championship rings will be coming in. We'll be heading down to spring training soon. I mean, it's full force. The wheels are turning.
Full force. Going back to the giveaways, one thing that it was really cool when you were talking about the big Nats up in, Washington, D.C., that all their player giveaways this year are all players that played with us in the last couple years.
Every single one.
Every single one of their player giveaways all played the last couple years. So, we're not just – it's just not hearsay when we say come to Fredericksburg to see the future stars in Major League Baseball and obviously up in Washington, D.C. I mean, they're doing giveaways of our players. How cool is that?
Yeah, and I mean, beginning our 5th year of affiliation here in Fredericksburg with the Washington Nationals. Now, that's the time where you start to see some folks that were here in Fredericksburg at the beginning reach the highest levels to the major league. So we couldn't be more excited for 2025. Saturday, February 22nd, 9 a.m., promotional schedule goes out. FredNats social media. Check your inbox if you're subscribed to our FredNat emails. And the single game tickets go on sale at that time as well. I mean, we're T-minus, I think, 49 days until opening day here at Fredericksburg. It'll be here before we know it. So I know I'm excited. I know you're excited. Hopefully everyone out there is excited too, Rob. We'll talk to you next time.
Yes, sir.
Eddie Longosz coming up right now. All right, welcome back to the official podcast of the Fredericksburg Nationals This Week in FredNats. I am Eric Bach, happy to be joined by the Washington Nationals Director of Player Development, Mr. Eddie Longosz, coming to us live from West Palm Beach, Florida. We are recording this on day 1 of spring training 2025. Pitchers and catchers report today. Eddie, first of all, thanks so much for the time. Second of all, this is one of the most exciting days of the year, I imagine, for you.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's back. You grind all off season, and as you know, but now it's official. We're gearing up, ready to go.
So for you, beginning year 2 in this position that you have, the Director of Player Development, after over a decade in scouting, I think the first question that I want to ask you is, what do you know today that you didn't know on this day last year after experiencing your job for a full season?
I'm learning stuff every day, so I don't know everything, but I would say a lot. It starts right now with the big puzzle of putting together these depth charts for the teams. Obviously, the minor league guys will get here for early camp on Saturday, physical Sunday, and we'll be full go Monday as well. But right now it's getting players in the right place. I mean, guys are competing right now to make the major league roster as well too. So it's exciting all around.
Yeah, there's a few guys from the FredNats championship team in 2024 that got non-roster major league camp invites, big camp, whatever it's called, spring training for Major League Baseball. So, I mean, obviously that's a great experience for those guys that, a lot of them probably won't be on the opening day Major League roster, but what a great experience for them to be able to experience big league camp and gear up for that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my job is giving good news. Obviously, there's times where I have to give, not so great news throughout the year, but those are some of the best phone calls you can make. Yarlin Susana thought I was kidding when I first told him, and I was like, buddy, you've earned this.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know you guys loved him and the things he did and progressed throughout the year. Loma Vida, who you kind of had for a hot second there, but, obviously helped with that championship title. Even keeled as you know him. I mean, that's just him, so saw him briefly today as well, too. So I think let me look at my roster. I think those are the two, right, that were with you last year?
I think so, yeah. A few guys from 2023, obviously, that were big parts of us. But the last couple of years, I think those are the only two from the 24 season. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about specific prospects as we work through this. But for you, I mean, it's kind of a clean slate, right? Obviously, the FredNats win the 2024 Carolina League title in your first year directing the player development system for the Nationals. It's the first time a Nats affiliate has won their respective league in a minute. That has to feel good for you guys to see what that Fredericksburg group was able to do towards the end of last season.
No, it's awesome. And kudos to you as well. I mean, everyone from the people in the mailroom to the broadcast and to the team is part of that championship. I hope everyone knows that, and Robbie and his staff too. But it's special. I think, winning is kind of a lost art. Obviously, you're in development to get players to the big leagues and succeed. And as we always say in spring training to the other hallway. But when you win and do stuff right, it means everyone's contributing in the right way. Things are always happier and going better when you win as well too. But it was It was exciting. I mean, I'm excited for these guys to get the rings, whatever ceremony they do. It's great for the city of Fredericksburg as well, too. I mean, the Silver family's done a lot for that community as well. So I'm excited all around and excited to come back there too.
We're excited to talk about some more specifics about how we're actually going to celebrate that 2024 championship before the 25 season begins in like 6 weeks or something. I mean, it's today's February 12th. We start on April 4th. I mean, it's coming down the line really soon, and it'll be here before we know it. But one thing that we talked a lot about before last season here in Fredericksburg is the staff continuity from 2023 to 2024. I mean, there was only one change with Mike Habas joining the Nationals as the hitting coach with Delwyn Young going up to Wilmington. I think obviously you're the one that put that staff together, and ultimately it's your decision about where everyone goes coaching wise and playing wise in the system. What was your thought process of keeping that core group pretty much together from one season to the next? And obviously it ended with a championship here.
No, great question. I mean, I came in here, we had a lot of new coordinators. As far as the affiliates, it was really one or two positions, and I didn't want to rock the boat. I knew that they had great chemistry talking to Jake Lowry, the manager, as well. So, after DY left, we filled, Mike's spot and wanted to keep that unit intact. Obviously, there's going to be some changes. I think that's already been announced, but it's good changes, right? It was a really good group there as well. There is going to be some consistency. Billy McMillan's going to be tremendous there. He's been a manager in the past. He's won championships in the past too at the minor league level. Justin Lord's still there, who was instrumental for all the pitching development. Mike Habas in year two. You lose Carmelo Jaime, but he's in a new role down in Florida, being our manager in the FCL. But Louis Ordaz has done everything in our organization for years, so he'll be a great addition. Obviously a new analyst there, Samantha Unger, who's been at a higher level too. So she'll bring her expertise as well down there. So they'll still be able to repeat, I hope, for sure. So
yeah, we've already begun talking about running it back in 2025 here in Fredericksburg. And that was my next question about Billy. Longtime coaching in the Boston organization, joined the Nationals, I believe, before the 2022 season, and has been with AAA Rochester the last 3 years as the development coach. So kind of the role that Carmelo Jaime held here. And we couldn't be happier for Jaime getting a chance to manage at the FCL level, by the way, because, I mean, he's got manager written all over him, and obviously you guys see that the same way. For our Fredericksburg fans, what are we getting with Billy McMillan? Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of a different style than what we're used to these last few years with Jake.
I mean, you're getting a great baseball person. He's been a manager before. He's been an outfield base running coordinator before, obviously played at the major league level. Which is great for these younger players. I think the big thing this year too, the experience, he'll really focus on that outfield base running, which will give Louis Ordaz, who's an infield guru as well, to really help develop that as well too. I know last year, Jaime was double timing a lot of stuff. Jake would step in. So everyone will have their distinct roles and full focus. We'll have a couple young outfielders there to start, which will be great for Billy. And obviously some great infielders, especially guys from last year's draft too.
Yeah, and we talk about Louis. He was the hitting coach for the Potomac Nationals for 4 years going up to COVID. So obviously that was up in Woodbridge. This is Fredericksburg, but it's pretty much the same idea of this organization and the ownership and all the people around it. So we're excited to have Louis and have him be a part of that. As far as Jake goes, I want to give Jake a little bit of shine here. For 3 years of managing Fredericksburg, 3 really successful years, made the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. Obviously, the last season ended with a title. He earns a promotion, as we say, to manage Wilmington. What was the thought process of you deciding that Jake was ready to bump up a level?
Yeah, it's a promotion. There's no air quotes or anything. It's a promotion. Sometimes you see guys bounce levels, but this was a promotion for him. I think no one really masters any level, but he had really done a great job. He'd shown his skills, especially his leadership skills. His in-game strategies been tremendous. He helped a lot last spring training, just with scheduling every day, getting guys in place. Obviously he was a catcher as a player, but has really harnessed everything. And he just showed that he can bring a staff together. He can bring a group of players and a unit together. And as you move through these other levels, that can get, challenging at times, but I think he's excited for the opportunity. He's deserved it. We're really happy for him.
No doubt about it. So I want to go back to 2024 and some of the prospects. You mentioned Justin Lord, the pitching coach who's been here the last 2 years, will be back again in 2025, and he was instrumental in helping along two of the major prospects pitching-wise in the organization. You touched on Harleen Susanna a little bit earlier. Let's talk about him now. His 24 season, frankly, did not get off to a good start. I mean, anyone that watched him could see that, but he flipped the switch at the end of May and then dominated, earned a promotion, dominated at the next level as well. What can you say about Susanna's 2024?
The biggest thing with him was his preparation in between starts. And Justin Lord did a phenomenal job really gearing with him right away and harnessing that. I mean, he's 20 years old still, which is crazy. A lot of these players we talk about where age is on their side. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, if we were that good at 20, we wouldn't be on this podcast.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
But his preparation in between, his workload, trusting all his pitches, getting ahead in counts early. He's a special human. He's a special baseball player. Obviously, he's a big league camp. He's going to be around some of the best. I saw Trevor Williams today, and they had a good chat. So he's in a good spot. I'm really happy for him. And then he got to Wilmington, and he kept that progression going. Lordy talked to Deefer, our pitching coordinator, Sam Narin was involved, and he just kept that progress. Obviously, at the end of the year, he threw more innings he's ever thrown in his life, too.
Yep.
So it was great to watch him do that, and we'll see what he does this year, but I think it's going to continue to be special.
And obviously, Travis Sikora here didn't start at opening day here, but spent the vast majority of the season here and ended up winning the Carolina League's Pitcher of the Year and, pitched the clinching game of the championship series. I mean, he was as integral to that championship as anybody. I mean, his evolution from kind of an unsure 20-year-old that's starting on May 1st to a guy that it was shocking when somebody reached base against him at the end. I mean, to have that type of progression in his first full season of professional baseball, and now he's finally getting his flowers as one of the top pitching prospects in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you know better than me because you saw him every day, but I mean, he is a tremendous competitor.
Yeah.
You would know. I mean, I think this was the first championship he's ever won, which is crazy for how good of an athlete and pitcher he is.
Insane.
But he's dominant. I mean, it's a ugly at bat when you get up there because he's going to come at you at different angles. Challenging at bat. I think that's what I was trying to say. No matter uncomfortable. Edit that out. But no, it's uncomfortable at bat. He mixes speeds. He's got 3 pitches. He's a workhorse. When you see him in between outings, the stuff he wants to do, and he's going to continue that as well. I mean, that's another. We're very blessed. We have a lot of good special arms, young special arms, like you said. He's 20 as well too. So.
Yeah, and that's the part of it for me, as you said. I got to see him every day, not only when he was on the mound, but when he wasn't. And the work that he puts in, obviously he showed up to you guys at the Nationals with a very regimented routine. And I think combining your guys' expertise with what he's already doing, that has really become a nice blend for him.
Yeah, it's with all these players, whether they're high school or college, they have certain routines. They have coaches they've worked with in the past. They think everything they've done has made them perfect, and a lot of it has helped. But we come in and say, hey, have an open mind. Here's stuff we notice. Here's stuff we want to try in your plans. We're still going to integrate everything you've done before. And he's been great. I think there's always some learning curves right away with any player. But when you're able to combine and show them that you care and you've done the research on stuff they've done before, then they're locked in and all in.
One thing I wanted to ask you, and it leads to another top-ranked arm in this system now, is, every time we see these trades at the trade deadline as fans, as consumers of baseball, it's just like, oh, these two prospects are going. Obviously Lane Thomas went to Cleveland at the deadline this past summer, and Alex Clemmie and Rafi Ramirez Jr. came back to the Nationals, and we happened to be in Lynchburg, the Cleveland affiliate in this league, when that happened, and it was the old clubhouse switcheroo. But for you guys in player development, obviously you're not the ones making the trades. Your job is to develop the guys that are in the system. How do you go about learning these new guys and trying to create a good plan for them when you when, 2 days ago they were a Cleveland Guardian and now today they're a Washington National. How does that work in the middle of the season for two guys that ended up contributing big time to the championship?
No, it's a great question. First, it's listening right away. With both these players, the coordinator and their respective coaches sat down with them. Hey, what have you done in Cleveland? What have you liked? What have you not liked? What's worked? What has not worked? So getting their basis and where they're at. Going back to research, I mean, Clemmy, we had amateur reports looking what our scouts thought about him as a prospect back there and seeing if that's kind of the same how we view them. And then we come together, we watch a little bit. We don't attack right away because you're going to fail if you do that. And watch for a little bit and then start making suggestions. And then at the end of the season, we give them a full plan going into the off season. Hey, here's what we're seeing. We go over with them one-on-one and we get to a point where we're both in agreement.
Yeah, that's just such a unique situation. And it was something that obviously we were in the middle of in Lynchburg of like, these guys I legit saw Clemmy and Ramirez carry their bags from one clubhouse to the other. I was like, wow, there's probably pretty few people alive that have witnessed an actual trade. Like we hear about the trades, but I just saw the swapping and the crossing of the intersection there. It was just kind of a surreal moment to see how the business of baseball works on the back end. And obviously, it takes more than just the ranked prospects to win a championship. I want to talk about one guy in particular who I thought got totally snubbed for the Carolina League Player of the Year in Brandon Pimentel. He's a undrafted free agent guy that showed up and led the Carolina League in RBIs by double digits by the end of it. Those are the types of guys that I think probably make you guys in player development really proud that, somebody that wasn't on anybody's radar contributing to a championship.
Yeah, it's hard now to find those diamonds in the rough, right?
Right.
With everything, with Baseball America, Perfect Game, all the technology as amateurs when they're collegiate players too. Those are challenging ones, and that's where you rely on the scouts and the agents you trust. But older player, but he accepted everything right away. He was a great glove at first. When you
Yeah.
hit, you play, and you're going to succeed. And he really harnessed that right away.
And for you personally, with a background in scouting, obviously you come from scouting to this role, that has to make you feel good about the scouting process that you guys have in place when somebody like that who, you're relying on maybe one scout that saw this guy one time, or, you're watching, UT Rio Grande Valley baseball, that's got to just be kind of a feather in your scouting cap when you see a guy like that succeed.
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's the area scouts especially. I mean, the grind they go through, the long days, the loneliness, the finding the best players they can, and when they can get these post-draft, you know, not as expensive signs, and they succeed and help teams win, and hopefully will continue to move through the system. I mean, that's why you do this, right? That's why everyone's going to take credit for a first or second rounder, but the ones you find like this, it shows how good your people are around you.
No doubt about it. And I want to talk about some of the draft guys as well, because as you said, they were here for a hot minute, but they had a pretty big impact on that winning that championship. Obviously, Seaver King, the first round pick, we'll start with him. I think he was maybe a little bit of a surprise pick to some people for the Nationals at number 10 overall. And for me, what I saw when he got here was just a guy that knows exactly what every situation calls for. Like a really cerebral player, obviously has a lot of positional versatility, but you guys have played him exclusively at shortstop when he was here in Fredericksburg. Can you tell me about Seaver's small sample size in 24 and what you're hoping for him in 25?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to stay at shortstop. He can play that tremendously. He came from a great program, a winning program at Wake Forest. Our scouts loved him from day one. We saw him. I'm always in constant contact with Danny Haas, our scouting director, and he was pounding the table from early, and I was excited. He's a great athlete. He can hit. He's got skills at short. He can stay at short. He's a great teammate. It's actually really cool. I just found out today how kind of close knit those guys were that you had. Loma Vida, him, and I think Basil are all living together in spring training. So
Yeah, that's
cool.
not surprising for me to hear that
Okay,
watching
yeah, you
them.
know him better than me. I mean,
Yeah.
personality wise. But yeah, he's going to be a great player in the system. He's a great prospect. I think he's going to move quick, and he's going to keep doing what he's doing. Not sure where he's going to start here, but if he's not in Fredericksburg, I'm sorry now. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, obviously, you guys will do what's best for you, but selfishly, we'd hope to have him back here. Um, talking
We'll have
about
some other
the
good ones, I promise.
Oh yeah. Well, the next question was about another good one. Is Luke Dickerson, a guy who the top three draft picks that the Nats took in 24, Seaver, Caleb Lomavita, and Luke. Obviously, the Lomavita pick was a compensatory pick that you guys picked up in the Hunter Harvey deal from Kansas City. But I want to talk about Luke because this is a guy that is a multi-sport athlete, actually doesn't have as much of a baseball background as some of these other guys. I mean, just hasn't been playing it nearly as long, but big signing bonus for him. And obviously, his first spring training, today's the first day of spring training, so he actually hasn't started yet, but his first spring training is right around the bend. What are you hoping for in spring training and then into 24 for Luke?
Yeah, I mean, hit ice hockey player, so he's a tough, he's a competitor
Yep.
right away. But he stays at shortstop too. I mean, you can never have enough shortstop guys that can stay there and continue to stay there. Eventually some move off, but I mean, the goal is to keep him there 100%. We worked him out at Nats Park right before the draft. It's a beautiful swing. It's got power to all fields. It's a special athlete too, a younger player as well. Keep harnessing on age, and that's a great thing with our system right now as well too. So, he's going to be exciting to watch. He's coming in, same with Seaver. They'll get here this weekend and hit it running on Monday.
Another guy that for folks that follow the even the lowest levels, I'm talking complex league, Dominican Summer League levels of this system. Angel Feliz is a name that he really put himself on a lot of people's radars. He was a Dominican Summer League All-Star, had over 900 OPS in the DR this summer. That's a guy that I imagine will find his way to Fredericksburg at some point in 2025. What can you tell us about him? I think there's a lot of people that have seen his numbers and seen, oh, this is a guy, but just hasn't actually seen him play.
Yeah, so he was recently we added him to the domestic reserve. So,
Hmm.
promotion from the academy over. He'll report here for spring training, which is exciting. First time over in the States, which I'm really excited about. But he can hit. He's always hit. That's the big thing with him. You know, he stays at shortstop as well right now too. And kind of we'll see how he does in spring and gravitates. And, like you said, I hope he's knocking on the door, sooner than expected up there. But the bat is really special on that player.
And for you now, obviously with spring beginning and you guys are constantly evaluating every player every day, how does how does the roster construction of the four full season affiliates kind of play out as far as your process goes? Because you have a team that helps you decide ultimately where everybody ends up, but what are you looking for when you're trying to decide, oh, is this guy going to go to Fredericksburg or Wilmington, or maybe it's between Wilmington and Harrisburg? Like, I know it's a case by case basis, but what are some intangibles that you are kind of thinking about as the spring progresses?
Yeah, I mean, a lot is case by case, like you said, at the AAA level, you're looking for players that if something goes wrong in the major leagues, they can make an impact right away.
Yep.
Obviously, you have a lot of 40-man players up there, so they're up and down as well too, and that can happen every night, depending on injuries or other things that happens at the major league level. Those two levels, AA and AAA, the maturity is a huge factor, which all our players, we have no bad makeup players whatsoever, but it's growing up, learning the game as they go. Each level you want to have a competitive starting rotation. You want to put players in a position where they're challenged and succeed. But if you are challenging someone too much, failure is part of the game and it's part of a learning process. So we kind of look at that as well too when they're at affiliates and struggle as well. But each level, I think where the place we're at right now, there's really no holes. I think we actually have some really challenging decisions this year,
Yeah.
where to start certain players, and that'll be. I sit down with all the pitching coaches, kind of see where they're at, and who they had the previous years. I'll sit down with the coordinators, each one individually, kind of see where they're at, and ultimately meet with Riz and kind of see his position. Certain guys, there's plans already made, but other ones, that we have some really good conversations.
And there's obviously the potential for a pleasant surprise in spring training as well, as far as you think maybe one guy is here, but he's actually showing that he's up here. And I guess how much does the performance in the minor league games in spring training really matter as opposed to just the daily workouts and all the stuff that everybody's going through. I mean, it's got to be kind of a blend of performances within workouts versus, when you're playing the Astros, your facility mate down there.
Yeah, which is nice because you just literally walk across the street.
It's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's having this facility the last, was this 8th year? I forget the year number,
I
but I
think
said it.
2017, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, Dusty's second year. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So 8th year. Um, Obviously spring training is a smaller sample size, right? That's the tough thing with these games. Guys are getting in rhythm. Position players who don't come to early camp really don't start till March 9th.
Right.
So it's kind of a quick turnaround. So the big thing as well too is even when you set these, rosters, and we tell the players too, that first month and a half, that's what's key, right? Last year we had a lot of players, the Brad Lords, the Lauras. I mean, these players can move in a week, right? So it's like, sometimes I know there's disappointment where you're starting, but dominate, right? Do everything you can to prove that, you want to be at the next level.
Speaking of a guy that got off to a really good start, not last year, but the year before, Jake Bennett here in Fredericksburg. I feel like people have totally forgotten about that guy just because he had Tommy John surgery in midsummer 2023, but was one of the most dominant pitchers in this Carolina League to start 23. And obviously, I'm sure you guys are hoping for full health from him in 25, but what are the expectations for a guy? I mean, you guys have a few that, you've brought along off of Tommy John surgery pitching wise. What are you hoping for Jake in 25 other than health?
Yeah, a great question. The goal is kind of mid-May for him. He's throwing bullpens now, and he's ready to go. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
excited for him. Obviously, there'll be some restrictions, with innings and whatnot coming off that, but I'm just glad to get him back at affiliate on a mound. I know he's glad to be back. He's throwing all his pitches right now, so he'll be here, this weekend as well too. So excited to take a look at him.
And another draft pitcher from 24 that was a huge, huge party was the eighth inning setup guy for the FredNats in the championship run was Robert Kranz. I feel like people haven't really talked about him much as far as, moving up the prospect list. I did see that he did fall onto the Baseball America top 30 prospect list, which I thought was pretty insightful by them to see how well he performed for us at the end of that season. What are you thinking for Kranz in 25? There's maybe been some whispers that he might get a crack at starting. Obviously, he was a pretty dominant reliever in the small sample size we saw of him.
Yeah, I mean, his sample size from Oklahoma State, he's always been a really good reliever.
Right.
A lot of our scouts like him as that. There was, like you said, some whispers at starting. I think we're going to kind of see where we're at in spring as you kind of look at these rosters and where's the best place for him to succeed. I know a lot of people want to start at first, but sometimes if you do what he does, you can move quick through a system as a reliever as well too, and still be extremely effective and vital for that major league roster.
He actually reminds me a ton of a guy you mentioned just a little bit earlier in Brad Lord, is that he, their deliveries are a little bit different, but I think the stuff's pretty similar. That's kind of and the bodies are kind of similar. Those two guys come into my mind as somewhat similar type of pitchers. And obviously Brad, I don't know if there was a minor league pitcher for any team that had a better 2024 than Brad Lord did.
Both strike throwers. I mean, both work off fastball strike throwers. I echo that for Brad. He's in major league camp for the first time. Well deserved by him. Saw him today. He's excited. I think he's a really special pitcher, and it shows you, kind of these later round drafts too. It doesn't have to be a day one or day two to make an impact in the system, and that's why we kind of tell all these guys where I understand the dollars and whatnot and the higher rounds, but there's just as many big leaguers as you keep going. Mike Rizzo says it best, every day in the draft, there's a big leaguer in this round, because there is.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited for Brad, but yeah, Kranz, same thing. He's going to do well. I'm very excited, him and, which you might get to, Jackson Kent's another one too. That I think could have some dominant impact in the system right away.
Yeah, we are definitely excited to see where it all shakes out here as we begin 2025. Kind of last one for you, Eddie. As far as spring training goes, what is the advice that you would give to a potential Nationals player that's listening to this podcast about how do you get through spring training in the most effective way? as far as just the grind of it and getting ready, kind of geared up into the season? What is Eddie Longosz's bullet points for how to have a successful spring training as a Washington National?
My speech is pretty quick. It's first of all trusting the staff, right? Everyone in that room, from the trainers to the analysts to the coaches, to the nutritionists, is to get you the big leagues. They all have the same plan. They all have the same message. So that's kind of my first thing to tell them. The big thing with me too is, be honest with me. I'll be honest with you throughout the process. If there's stuff that's bothering you on or off the field, because that can affect everything, let me know. I will help in any way I can, and so will our staff. And lastly, it's a competition. This is a really tough game. With the new roster restrictions, there's only 165 spots throughout the entire year. So you need to come and compete every day. There's no days off. You're at spring training for a reason. The players at early camp, they're here for a reason. People make clubs, are on those teams for a reason. And, you have to compete. It's the same thing with the major leagues, right? There's only 40-man spots. So if you don't come to work one day, it can gravely impact you for the rest of spring. So those are kind of my big things I hit on right away. And we get rolling. I mean, there's less time inside and get out in the fields.
Eddie Longosz, thank you so much for the time, especially on a busy day like this with pitchers and catchers reporting. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the road in the Carolina League in 2025, I'm sure.
I'm excited. I'm excited to wear that ring with you this year. So looking
Yes,
forward to
yeah.
that.
Yeah, we can tap rings when we're out
There
on
we
the
go.
road,
I
right?
love it.
Thanks, Eddie. We'll talk soon.
You bet. Thank you for having me.